Hi guys, this is BAWLER and this is news for you. Please subscribe to my channel, it's very important to me. On June 12th, Israel launched a large-scale military campaign named Operation Rising Lion, targeting Iran with precision strikes. These strikes eliminated multiple high-ranking Iranian officials and focused heavily on nuclear facilities. Iran retaliated forcefully. Over the weekend, Iran unleashed a barrage of missile attacks on Israel, significantly damaging the power infrastructure in central regions. CNN reported that the conflict has already led to the deaths of 224 civilians in Iran. With tensions peaking, the Middle East is now facing the specter of full-scale war. This raises a serious question. What are the most dangerous outcomes that could arise from this confrontation? On June 14th, the BBC outlined 5 alarming scenarios with global repercussions. The first scenario suggests direct U.S. involvement, despite official denials immediately following Israel's offensive, including a statement by Senator Marco Rubio emphasizing America's lack of participation and its intent to protect U.S. personnel. Iranian state media continues to accuse the U.S. of being complicit in Israel's actions. President Donald Trump voiced concern just before the strikes, stating that he hoped to preserve diplomatic efforts aimed at halting Iran's nuclear ambitions. However, if those talks fail, the U.S. might feel compelled to act militarily, especially if Iran continues its nuclear development. Civilian evacuation efforts have already begun. U.S. veteran-led organizations like Grey Ball Rescue and Project Dynamo are operating on the ground to extract Americans from Israel. This situation complicates matters. If a U.S. citizen or a rescuer is killed in the fighting, pressure will mount on the Trump administration to intervene militarily. In fact, Trump has acknowledged the possibility, though he insists the U.S. is not currently involved. If America does enter the war, it would escalate a regional conflict into a global one. Reports from Vox and the New York Times suggest that Israel's objectives might even require U.S. support to successfully neutralize Iran's nuclear infrastructure, and while the U.S. maintains its official distance, it has supplied vast amounts of weaponry to Israel since the October 7, 2023 Hamas attacks, including over 10,000 tons of arms. The BBC warns that only the U.S. possesses the bunker-busting bombs necessary to destroy Iran's subterranean nuclear facilities. If America becomes a combatant, the escalation could be devastating and far-reaching. The second scenario involves the Gulf states being pulled into the conflict. Historical grievances, like Iran's alleged attacks on Saudi and Emirati infrastructure, may resurface. If Iran's assault on Israeli targets proves ineffective, the BBC speculates Tehran might shift focus to softer targets among the Gulf nations. While some Gulf states quietly support Israel's effort to weaken Iran, they also fear the consequences. Saudi Arabia, for instance, condemned Israel's attack despite geopolitical tensions with Iran. According to analysts like Sanam Fakil and Sebastian Sons, the Gulf states are caught in a delicate balancing act, trying to de-escalate while simultaneously protecting their own interests. However, Iran could choose to strike American military bases across the region. The U.S. currently operates nearly 20 bases in the Middle East, housing up to 50,000 personnel. If those come under attack, particularly in places like Turkey or Cyprus, the war could expand rapidly, especially if the U.S. retaliates. The third scenario involves the destruction or failure to destroy Iran's nuclear program. Israel's goal with Operation Rising Lion is to eliminate this threat. While satellite imagery suggests significant damage to facilities at Natanz and Fordo, experts like Ali Vaez warn that Iran can rebuild its supply chain within months. Iran is thought to possess 593 pounds of uranium enriched to 60%, just below the 90% threshold needed for nuclear weapons. Experts estimate that within 2 weeks, Iran could enrich enough material to build several bombs. That makes Israel's mission both urgent and uncertain. Should Israel's attacks push Iran toward accelerated nuclear development, the result could force more Israeli strikes and reignite U.S. involvement, this time against a potentially nuclear-armed Iran. That outcome would radically alter the power dynamics in the region. The fourth scenario explores the possibility of a global economic crisis. Oil prices surged by 7% on June 13th, and experts like Matt Gurtkin suggest that full Iranian retaliation or U.S. entry into the conflict could double oil prices. A spike in energy costs would likely lead to stagflation. High inflation combined with slow economic growth and high unemployment. Iran could further inflame the economic situation by reactivating the Houthis in the Red Sea. Houthi attacks have previously crippled Suez Canal traffic, costing Egypt billions and disrupting global supply chains. The ripple effect would be worldwide. European and Chinese economies would suffer, and higher oil prices could empower Russia by making its oil exports more critical, potentially prolonging the war in Ukraine. The final scenario envisions the collapse of Iran's regime. While this might seem like a favorable outcome for Israel, it would create a power vacuum. History shows that similar events in Iraq and Libya led to long-term instability. Analysts fear that the fall of Iran could lead to a chaotic struggle for control, with countries like Russia and China taking advantage. Internal ethnic tensions could also rise. The Kurds and the BALAK, long oppressed by the Iranian regime, might seek autonomy or full independence. Without central control, Iran could fracture, throwing the region into deeper chaos. Ultimately, while toppling the Iranian regime might eliminate the nuclear threat and prevent future missile attacks, it could also unleash a chain of unpredictable consequences. The BBC asks whether the world is prepared for the fallout of such a collapse. Israel's current military campaign aims to preempt these dangers by removing Iran's leadership and nuclear capabilities. Whether this will succeed or lead to the scenarios outlined above remains to be seen.